Good evening. This is Hamden Action Now, Black and Brown United, and the Hamden Democrats, and Connecticut Moral Monday, as well as Connecticut Black Women. We're coming here to have it's a joint coalition press conference today in support of Representative Robyn-Porter from the 94th District, representing Hamden and New Haven. On this past Tuesday, Representative Porter co-chaired the Labor and Public Employees Committee public hearing. And we want to talk a little bit tonight about what happened during that meeting as well as the aftermath. Stay tuned. So on Tuesday, February 9th, the Connecticut Labor and Public Employees Committee held a hearing to hear testimony from the public on various bills that were being presented on that day. I was actually number 30 on that list to give testimony in support of the Crown Act bill, which was House Bill 6376. Representative Harry Arora, representing the 151st District in Greenwich, began the day basically litigating the majority of the constituents that came to give public comment and testimony in support of their legislation. It's interesting, incidentally, in the clips we chose from the committee's video on that day, that Representative Arora even makes a statement of how important process is and how he has to explain process to his constituents. So while Representative Arora was fully aware that there was more than 80 constituents on the list that day to have their testimony heard, he deliberately continued to litigate, cross-examine, and prosecute members of the community giving testimony, thus extending the day and disenfranchising commenters and testimony givers and dominating his time, asking questions and making sweeping statements and generalizations about data, facts that were completely unrelated to the bill. Hamden Action Now is going to present an extended clip with two of the most egregious moments of the day of Representative Arora's his question period. It involved testimony from Jason Ortiz of the Minority Cannabis Business Association and Kimberly Glassman from the Foundation for Fair Contracting. Representative Arora asked many questions out of context with both these presenters and used more than 8 minutes of time litigating their public responses. By around 5 p.m. that day, I was finally able to present my personal testimony, and there were still 70 more people on the list. They had only gotten through 30 speakers at that time. Here's an extensive clip of both interactions for our viewers, and it's a bit long, but it makes the point. Please stand by.
Do you know a minority AI? You know, the AI, artificial intelligence, is very, very big field. You know, there's going to be trillions, but not billions, trillions for cloud association. Do you know of them?
Do I know of the technology?
No, minority AI association.
No, but I'd be very interested. One of my other passions in drones, so I would love to hear more about it. And we can talk about how we can use robotics and drones to make our grows more efficient. Actually, automation will be the future of cultivation, and so there's a lot that we can do there. It's another.
We're dealing with internet issues. All right. Well, as we all know, everybody in the world right now is dealing with buffering. So we're going to try this again. And then if we can't try it again, we will move along.
Legalize cannabis.
You may not also have heard about the Minority Cloud Storage Association. That's a problem that, most of the time there are some exciting technologies which are creating trillions of businesses. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Ms. Glassman, for your testimony and for being here to help us understand. I have a few questions here I would ask you. As you know, in the legislature, we understand that process is
All right, so we're having technical difficulties on our video, but you can always go to their committee has a YouTube channel and watch the entire footage of the committee. These two clips that we selected from were at 6.50 in the actual presentation. We strongly suggest our viewers to watch that video, and you will be able to see every time. I mean, these were just the most egregious, but the entire day was dedicated to Representative Arora constantly cutting people off. And at some point, even Representative Porter even had to ask him, please, can you just let people finish their sentences? And as long as we can let everybody and not cut anyone off in the middle of their comments. So, Kimberly Glassman and Jason Ortiz even, felt, I'm sure they probably felt some type of apprehension. They didn't feel comfortable giving their testimony. His behavior was a complete dereliction of duty to the constituents who were present and those who were probably most likely afraid to submit testimony, fearing being put on trial during the question section of their testimony. By about 8 p.m., co-chair Porter asked the legislators to hold their questions. And this is when it really got contentious. So the committee during this time had to listen all day long to Representative Arora. He continued question after question, and his questions were at length, and they were unrelated. And when he was told at around 8:30 that all the questions had to be held, then he had the nerve to start saying that he was being bullied, when he had been bullying constituents all day, asking unrelated questions. I mean, it just was, outrageous. The hardest part of the day was that it didn't end on Tuesday evening. It continued into Wednesday when the Connecticut Republicans posted denigrating and racist comments on their Facebook page about Representative Porter. And this is just a copy here of the screenshot where a Glenn Morgan said, was always disrespectful pre-COVID. Apparently her wig is in the shop. And there was a person named Tracy Constigan Hansen. This is what happens when a representative is more concerned about herself being disrespected than the citizens of the state being disrespected by a convoluted and opaque process. I mean, you want to talk about being disrespected? Go watch that footage. Jason Ortiz was disrespected. Okay. Kimberly Glassman was disrespected, and several other tax-paying constituents who came just to submit testimony. They didn't come to be put on trial about what they were tested about the bill. If you want to have offline, discussions and questions about various things, you do that offline. But then you disenfranchise everybody who's on the list behind you, who's been waiting till 10 o'clock at night. So, we're just here to say this one thing. We're calling for. I mean, I can just speak on behalf of Hamden Action Now, and the other groups to speak, and have their own request. Our request is this. We're asking that Representative Arora be removed from the Labor and Public Employees Committee effective immediately. He is rude, disruptive, and unprofessional. And we also we're going to drop a link to a petition that has been circulating to Governor Lamont and Attorney General William Tong to this effect as well. We must send a message to the Black and brown elected officials in Connecticut will not be bullied. They will not be bullied and disrespected on no levels. If co-chair Rep.Porter is chairing a meeting and she says, hold your comments, that's it. That's it. You don't sit there, you don't argue, you don't denigrate, because you don't do that to anybody else, Representative Arora. But you felt it was appropriate to disrespect and argue with a Black female legislator, and then the Republicans put these denigrating and racist Facebook posts up and didn't even take them down until the Speaker of the House, Ritter, posted his statement. This is absolutely unacceptable. And we just want to make it further clear. When you bully the Black and brown legislative representatives in the state of Connecticut, you're bullying all of us. And that we voted them into office. And that just absolutely will not be tolerated on any levels. I'm going to go ahead and bring in the rest of the coalition tonight, who also have comments to make about the behavior of Representative Arora on Tuesday at these hearings. We have Sean Grace from the Hamden Democratic Town Committee. We have Representative Robyn.Porter from the 94th District, Hamden and New Haven. We thank you for your service and your leadership. We have Representative Hughes. Oh, Representative Hughes, you're gonna have to tell me what district, because I just get so excited. I know it's out there, Easton, Weston area. I just don't know the number. Uh-oh, you're muted. Uh-oh. Okay.
She's 135th district, Rhonda.
All right, 131st.
Yeah, 135.
And then we have Bishop Selders and Lady Pamela Selders from Connecticut Black Women and Connecticut Moral Monday of Hartford.
We love you.
Thank you. We're sorry for the technical difficulties. We're buffering as everybody's trying to use the internet. But we want to make sure we'll drop that link into our chat so that those that are watching can actually see and watch and hear. I mean, really, Representative Arora from Greenwich, he basically dominated the day. I mean, we could call it what we want to call it, but the day was dominated by him.
Mm-hmm. Can you hear me now?
Yes, there you go.
Woo! Okay.
I'm telling you, the technical difficulties with something else.
Yeah, sorry about that.
But thank you for joining.
Yeah.
Well, we're just wanting to talk about it a little bit and hear the comments, because we want to be in full support. Again, it's in this day and age, the Black and brown community is under attack. Mm-hmm. I mean, we saw the biggest attack in our lifetime on January 6th. Now, everybody seems to think that was just Washington, D.C. and other states and other people were involved. That's here in Connecticut. And by the Connecticut Republican Party putting racist posts up on their Facebook page and not taking them down and leaving. And then even when they took them down, they didn't even call it out. Unacceptable. Mm-hmm. So I want to hear from our wonderful representative, the mighty 94th District, Robyn.Porter. I want to hear from you first.
Well, I thank you for having me on tonight, Rhonda, and I thank you all for your support. The outpouring of support has just been so tremendous. And I tell you, I literally wept yesterday, just looking at Facebook and getting the texts and the phone calls. And I've been doing this work for a long time, almost 7 years in. And, just basically put my hands on the plow, kept my head down, just trying to get the work done, despite the challenges, despite the barriers, despite the undermining, the sabotage, all the things that were going on. I was determined to do what God sent me to that building to do, and that is to deliver for his people. And after last year, I decided, I'm not going to suffer in silence anymore. That people really do need to understand what is going on in that building and how it impacts people specifically that look like me, and the things that we have to deal with. And this is just one of those instances where I really didn't have to put in much effort because Representative Arora showed his own hand. And I believe the old saying, when people show you who they are, Maya Angelou, God rest her soul, you believe it. When they show you who they are the first time, you believe it. So the state of Connecticut, and I'm sure people around the nation have gotten to see who Representative Arora really is. And I just think it was really disgraceful, disrespectful, and out of order. He was out of order. And so was Representative Ritigliano. I don't want to leave him out because he was another one that interrupted me as I was chairing the meeting to object to my chairing. And I take offense to it because, the protocol and the process for running a committee is you have to be recognized by the chair before you can speak.
Yes.
And they basically hijacked my public hearing, and they totally disrespected the people, the citizens of this state that were coming forth to testify on behalf of legislation and to let us know as lawmakers where they stood on this legislation. Do you support it? Are you in opposition? This is the purpose of a public hearing. And people were denied that. And actually, we lost people because they were frightened. They didn't want to come under that subjection. They were like, what is going on? And every time I tried to rein them in, I was met with resistance. And it got so bad that I actually had to call my leadership. I had to get on the phone with Speaker Ritter and say, look, do you see what's going on? As a matter of fact, I think I said, do you see this shit? Because I couldn't believe it. And I will tell you, in full transparency, I wasn't shocked and I wasn't surprised. I was really disappointed. Representative Arora had made it very clear that, his caucus had not gotten bills they wanted. And he actually threatened me and my co-chair said, if we don't get these bills, then we're going to be here all night. And that was for the committee meeting prior to the public hearing. So what happened was that sentiment carried over from the committee meeting the previous week into the public hearing this week. And unfortunately, this is how they operate. This is what they do. They figure if they put the pressure on and they bully you, then you'll give in and give them what they want. But I got news for them. It is not the God I serve. And I'm not going to be bullied. I'm not going to be intimidated. And I'm going to stand for what's right. And I'm going to make sure that when people come to my public hearing, that they are respected and that they have an opportunity to do exactly what they've showed up to do. People sacrifice their time to be at that public hearing.
All day.
All day. And I'm going to tell you
logged
something.
in.
That public hearing, you get 3 minutes to testify. You may have some questions, right? Give or take. It shouldn't have took any more than 6, maximum 7 hours.
Yes.
For that public hearing. There were 98 people signed up. He doubled the time that we sat in that public hearing and denied people their right to testify.
But let's talk about also the intimidation factor, because he was so intimidating during the hearings that I can only imagine that people probably hung up. They probably because you kept calling people and you're like, okay, so this person's not here. They probably saw the first couple hours of this and were like,
no, thank you.
After I made my statement, I was like, okay, I'm ready for you, bro. I was ready because I was like, because he had made a statement earlier to a person about the Crown Act. Well, you think maybe we just need some education or we need some more training. I don't need you. Listen, we're not going to spend another dime educating and training people on racism. And definitely not tax dollars.
Amen.
Okay. So I'm not going to, you can't have any more my tax money to teach people how not to be racist.
And not just that, Rhonda, it is not our job as legislators to change hearts and minds. It's our job to legislate. My job is to legislate liberty, justice, and equity for all. That's my job. I'm not coming to change that. I leave that to the Lord. That's what he does. He changes hearts and minds. That's not my responsibility. The people elected me to show up in that building and stand in authenticity for the issues that impact them personally, on a personal level, day in and day out. And you don't get to question people with lived experience. He's subjective. He was treating people like they were witnesses on a stand.
I said it was like a cross-examination. Sheesh. Well,
the buck stops here.
I just wanted to make sure that they knew that there is a coalition. Like, you don't just show up to the legislative office building without a following. I mean, it's not just the folks that voted for you. There's a coalition of activists and leaders in the state of Connecticut that follow you. All right. And what I'm telling them, and we're telling them tonight, is that when you come for the Black and brown leadership, you come for all of us. Okay. And I mean that when I say he definitely needs to be either removed or he needs to resign from that committee, because he's rude, he's disrespectful, he's unprofessional, and he's intimidating. And then when you have let's do the gang up routine. It's like clockwork. It's like clockwork in this society. First, you have him who's bullied people all day long, including you and your leadership. Then you have, like you said, Representative Ritagliano. He comes in, oh, now you're the one that's disenfranchising. You're now the one that's being the bully. It was absolutely textbook.
Rhonda, I wanted to make an observation that to those who are used to privilege and used to being the center of power, public hearings, the center of power is the public. It is the public. It is the chair's responsibility to center that power to the public. And to people who are used to privilege, accountability and calling them to account feels like bullying. And so suddenly we become victims when we're called out. Suddenly we become victims when we're called out. Why? Because it's always about us and our feelings. That's what entitled privilege looks like in a setting like this.
Yes. And that's exactly what happened. I mean,
it's always about us and our feelings, right?
And our Hamden Democratic Town Committee, we talk about that. We've been talking about that all the time. I mean, we have these meetings where we're bringing in new, procedures. We have a platform. We have rules. We have rules committee. We're updating our bylaws and our code of conduct, and people are all up inside their feelings. And I'm the first one with my hand up. I try to get my little mouse over there real quick so I can get my hand up real quick and say, it's happening. Get on board. You're not going to be able to stop it. I mean, Sean, you could expound on this a little bit, but we're not going there anymore with the feelings.
So referencing the DTC, I'll say that everything we've been doing is about centering the voices of Democrats in town and all the membership, in the same way that, Robyn is up there in Hartford trying to center the voices of all the people that center there, specifically in Hamden, in New Haven, but also we all recognize her as a statewide voice. And that's why we care so much about this, right? So we are so proud to have her up there fighting for us and chairing this important committee, and to see, and as Representative Hughes said, to see this attempt to derail it is beyond frustrating. And I think at the very minimum, what we need to do right now, Robyn, Rhonda and I have been talking about putting together a video tutorial to encourage folks and show them how to sign up to testify. And I think we need to add a part in there about do not be intimidated, right?
Yeah.
Because that's really frustrating for earnest citizens who think that they are going to just tune in and get to be a part of this process by having their voice heard, and then to witness what they witnessed from people going before them. I mean, there are a lot of people that were just going to decide not to participate, and other people watching who may unfortunately decide not to participate going forward. So there's a silencing going on here.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's a silence.
Absolutely.
We need to stop that. We need to put the brakes on that right now.
And
It
it's
was very
bad enough
intimidating.
that people are afraid. You know, you're already nervous to testify. People have issues around public speaking. Believe it or not, I'm one of them. So I really do relate when it comes to like just getting the intestinal fortitude and the courage to show up for a public hearing. And then to have to wait and witness, you know, this berating going on to people going before you. Oh, it will definitely deter people. People will definitely turn away and say, you know what? I don't want to be subjected to that today. I didn't come here for that today. Because they're just trying to muster up the courage to say their little 3 minutes worth of speaking. And now they're having to listen and witness this. And it's just not right. It's an obstruction. And I thought that was what was really ironic. You know, they've been berating me and gaslighting me all over Facebook. And, you know, accusing me of being a bully, accusing me
Oh my God.
of discriminating. Hey, that's a joke. And obstruction of democracy. When in fact, that is exactly what was going on. That is exactly what they were doing, right? But that's characteristic of a bully. That's what bullies do.
Project.
They use those tactics to intimidate you, to check you, to put you in place, to keep you in place. And fortunately, I know my place. I know the power that I wield, and I will not be deterred in serving my people. And when I say my people, I mean all people. It's not just the 94th district. It's all of Connecticut. When I pass a law, it doesn't just impact Hamden and New Haven. It impacts 169 towns. And I've always done my best to represent everyone that reaches out to me. And many of them are not from my district, on the same strength that I would if they lived in my district. So it's really offensive that, you know, they would come after me like this, but I got thick skin.
Oh,
I
yeah.
was raised in black skin. So I'm used to it. I'm built for it, and I'm not going to back down. And the reason that I can continue to fight with the strength that I have is because of each and every one of you. Each and every one of you is a gust in the wind beneath my wings, the strength that I need when I'm tired and I think I can't do this no more. You know, when I've gotten fed up to here and said, you know what, you know, and then it's one of you that will call me or text me or put something on Facebook. And I just want you to know how much that means to me. Like it's a struggle. It's exhausting.
It's exhausting.
I get beat up. I mean, like I walk out of there with black eyes, and I mean in the spirit, bruised. And it's only because of you all that I have the strength. You really do keep the fire in my belly going. And for me tonight is really not about talking about that representative. It is about talking about my people, the people, Porter for the people that I'm fighting for, the people that I represent, the people that I love. And believe it or not, I love them too. I'm praying for them because they got some deep-rooted issues. I'm not claiming to be the one to help them get where they need to be, but I'm going to be able to stay focused on what it is I was sent to that building to do. And that is to serve the people in the state of Connecticut with my whole heart and soul. That's all I'm here to do.
I mean, I wanted to just, I wanted to see if the Selders could give us an idea on what your thoughts were.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to jump in and say to you, Robyn, you know, that I'm really sorry that happened to you. I'm very sorry that you had to experience that. It was ridiculous. It certainly was an attack. This is how it looks when Black leadership is undermined. This Black women who are in leadership, when they're undermined, when they're disrespected, and you didn't deserve that. You were there, and you're always serving the people. Who don't know that? They knew it, you know. So it's very intentional, and it was, you know. So I think a lot of things. I got a lot of things in my head about what was really happening. Was it more of an attack on democracy? You know, just kind of that's going to be happening from state to state. You know, that happened on the 6th of January. I'm not sure. It was a full-on attack that was happening. And then, and then what happened afterwards, it just was all just, it was immature. It was
Yeah.
childish. And, as a mom, I was just telling John, as a mom, when my children grew up and, was growing up and they would mistreat somebody, call somebody out of their name or, do something that was mean and disrespectful, the very first thing we would have to do, is to have a conversation about it. Was it the right thing to do? Right from wrong. That by the time you're 5, I think. Some of the actions that they were, that happening, I'm going to say 10-year-olds, up to 10-year-olds, right from wrong. Was that right? Was it wrong? No, that was wrong. Apologize, and sit and think about it. You're on punishment. So all of this is what we would say is home training.
Mhm.
Do they have good home training? I don't know. And I don't know what to say when you have elected officials acting like they don't have good home training and know how to respect people and respect processes. So it certainly was very intentional. And I do think we need to have a conversation about in this moment, how do we move forward in addressing this? Yes, he needs to be dealt with personally, but I also think that we have to deal with this institutionally. This is our government, so that's structured. And we have to deal with it. It's racism. It was racist. It was sexist. He was just out of order all over the place with that. And so I'm more inclined to think about, well, what's next? What do we do? How do we support each other? How do we surround this issue in a way that it gets addressed, nipped in the bud, whatever. So, I'm just adding on to what everybody else said. It was just ridiculous what happened.
It was nonstop.
It should never have happened. Like never. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, what do you think, CJ?
I mean, I'm not surprised. If I say I'm surprised, I'd be lying. I'm not surprised. It's not the first time it has happened to her. It's not the first time one of our leaders, a Black and brown leader, has been demoralized in that fashion. Some people, when they're elected into these positions, for example, they come to the meetings, they say, we're going to do this for you and that for you. And then when they get into position, they pass us like an exam. And what I could say about Rep.Porter, I put that one in there for you, Rep Sellers, like an exam, what I could definitely say about Rep.Porter, I was sitting there listening to this thing and I messaged her and I said, I couldn't even get his name right. He's like a hemorrhoid. And he evolved from being a hemorrhoid to being much more that I kind of describe because we're not in Bio 101. But, it is definitely sickening. In Trinidad, we say, when you cut grass low, you see snake head, right? And the fact of the matter is, we're seeing the snake's head. What folks need to realize, it didn't end on January 6th. It just became more obvious. Now, what's going to happen in this case? This man, we wrote letters. Robyn, we started that same day. We wrote a letter. Black and Brown United wrote a letter. Other folks wrote letters. We had letters from folks from Connecticut Black women, all over were sent on the 9th. We asked for an apology. We asked for him to, we asked him, we said, think about what you said, apologize and offer for people to come back. Nothing. So at that point, we decided to kick it up a notch, Unidad Latina, and Hampton Action Now joined on, and so many others, Brittany Yancey, all over, 32BJ.
All over Connecticut.
All over Connecticut just started sending letters. So now, at this point, the letter was sent to the Speaker of the House and also to the governor. And still crickets. And that's very scary when you really sit down and think about that. Because for you all as leadership to know this is happening to this woman, she's not getting paid nothing to deal with all of that. I sat there till my eyes couldn't stay open. I listened to Robyn ask very nicely for everybody to wait till everyone has testified. This is supposed to be about the community participating in democracy. How will the working poor and the poor be part of policy making when, from the minute that the testimony started off with the Crown Act, the best thing this man could let slide out his mouth is, well, can't you teach people about hair? Are you kidding me? Are you serious? And I think we need to really get up and stand up. And I shared the petition link. I need people to sign this thing. We have to get this thing signed. We have to show that this is serious here. We're not taking it anymore. We have to shake the boat. We cannot allow the oppressor to rest. And she's absolutely right. It is not just about that one instance. This is like a pattern. It happens to a lot of our Black and brown women, especially in leadership and beyond that. We are bullied. And I hate to tell this to the white people. This might shock you, but you'll sit there and watch it like it's a movie. And that just puts more salt on the wound. Okay, so we get criminalized and dehumanized and humiliated, and you'll just watch like, oh, look at that, huh? What's for lunch? You know, and that's how that felt. So we really need to get up and stand up here because this can't happen anymore. And I saw, let me pull this thing up here and read a comment I saw on this man's page. You know, because what he's doing now, that's right, Pam. I had to get the information. You need the information, you know, right?
I just wanted to say, I don't know, CJ, I was just thinking, you know, listen, maybe what we have to do is, you know, turn up every time, you know, a Black and brown person has to, you know, do their work at the Capitol.
That's
you know,
it. We need to turn up, right?
We may just need to have to turn up. You know, I don't know.
Well, I also would recommend.
No, I mean, of course, we can do it. We definitely
get and we get criminalized, right?
I think we also should
normalize. But let me just share a couple comments here. The only thing those people know is how to spend and waste time on getting nothing done. Only liberals have free speech. I think I would have put her in her place as soon as she started running her mouth. This is about Rep.Porter.
Yep.
This is a comment to Harry. This is this crowd saying they're proud of him. Margaret, stop here. It is really a fight at every level. Thanks for standing up to us. As an immigrant and as a woman who has East Indian heritage, I am embarrassed to know that we even share a hair of the same bloodline and ancestry. You are a shame to all of us. And I'm saying that on behalf of Black and Brown United and Unidad Latina en Acción. We stand with you, Rep.Porter. You live right here. You're a neighbor. You are with us. You don't just sit in the seat. You occupy that space. And let me tell you something. If they try to budge you, we coming. Everybody here, plus some who didn't get here yet. So know that, Harry. You and your business going down, brother. Since you're a businessman, figure it out. That's what I have to say about him for right now.
And you want to talk about constituents being disenfranchised. Well, let's just say the 151st district was well represented the entire freaking day. He never shut up. It was rude stuff. I mean, he was asking Jason Ortiz about the UConn study and the data. I don't think Jason Ortiz works for UConn. He wasn't a part of that study. And it was just like it was like filibustering. He was just wanted to continue to pad the day with minutes and listening to his voice. Asking questions about Kimberly Glassman, asking her about how the Department of Labor, the United States Department of Labor, calculates the prevailing wage rates. Well, isn't it how they do this type of 50 percentile and 10 percentile? And, listen, we are not going to be disenfranchised, the citizens of Connecticut. We will absolutely not, and certainly not the Black and brown members of the Connecticut citizenry. We're not having it. After I hung up at like, I finally clicked the Zoom off around 6:00 after I had spoken, because I was like, I had to go make dinner, for my daughter and actually get on with my day, because I'd been on there since literally 10 o'clock in the morning and we were only up to number 30. And I was like, they're going to be, I called Catherine. I said, they're going to be on to after midnight at this rate. And then when she said
it's funny
to me,
you say that, Rhonda, because his intention was to keep us there till 5 a.m.
Mm-hmm. And
That was his intention.
abuse, especially, Rhonda, women and mothers and people's time to get discouraged, because he knows damn well that you and so many others waiting to testify have other responsibilities.
yes,
And that's what abuse of time and disrespect of your time looks like. Is like, I get all the time in the world to center my, voice, but what about the people waiting to testify? And this was always true of the gun violence safety bills. Is all the women that were coming out for, to extend the protection orders for safety.
Domestic violence.
Domestic violence. They would have to go home because we would be there till 1 a.m, and they had young children. So, that is deliberate. That is deliberate.
Right. And you can't sit there and blather on for 20 minutes and only give the public 3 minutes. Like, how equitable is that? Like, this guy, if you go and look at that video, he blathers on for a good 12, 13 minutes per person. But then when the person is speaking, you had Devin, Mrs. Glassman time. So she's only able to get 3 minutes of her testimony out, and, in effect, to keep it so everybody's time is used equitably. But this guy could go, that needs to be a process change right there. His comments need to be limited to 3 minutes.
Don't you worry. Don't you worry. We had a meeting and it's all coming. There's going to be a reset, and we're going to give them the opportunity to redeem themselves. And if they do not, then look, and I want you to watch, because there needs to be a higher level of accountability outside of that building. Absolutely. And I just want to go back to what CJ was talking about when he was talking about, well, can't we solve this with education? And he missed the whole point. This is not your lit experience. And this is what I try to tell people, especially when it comes to Black and brown issues. It's an opportunity for you to listen and learn. Not listen to respond, but listen to process, listen to learn. It was an opportunity for him to actually be educated. And he missed that opportunity because he thinks he's the smartest guy in the room. And I think that's really unfortunate that, you don't allow yourself enough room for growth, enough room for understanding. And the whole point of the public hearing is to get the public opinions, their concerns on the political issues before a legislature makes a decision. That is the premise of a public hearing. That is the purpose of a public hearing. It is to give voice to the public so that we can make better informed decisions when we go to vote on this legislation. Now, he missed the whole point around the Crown Act because he was trying to be teachable. He was trying to teach in a moment when he should have been teachable, when he should have been opening up to learn something he knew nothing about.
That's right.
Yeah, and also I want to say, that's just like a common racist trope, to just throw out there, oh, you people, I don't know, I didn't understand you people, and your issues. Educate me. Tell me the first time you encountered a racist, and whatever the situation is, it's something that racists, as a person who does educate on this subject of white supremacy, racism, I hear all the time from the racist people, these comments of, oh, I didn't know any better. Listen, racism is not new. It didn't start 2 weeks ago. This thing is intertwined from the beginnings of this country, and it's in the law, through the law. So this is something that you need to educate yourself about. You educate yourself about everything else you want to know. So then you get to know what this is, and if you want to do this, then we can have a process where, it can be a business arrangement, but you just don't on demand get to say, oh, I'm so stupid, I don't know, educate me. I just,
Well, that was the whole,
it's very
that was
racist.
the center of my comments were the reason why we're even here talking about the Crown Act was the fact that this is white supremacy. And I said, we could talk about this all we want. I said, but the bottom line here is I don't want to hear about education until you're ready to be teachable. White folks, if you're not ready to receive the information, then I'm not spending any more of my time trying to give it to you. I won't.
Well, what this shows is that, white supremacy, racism is through and through. It's thorough. It's no place that we can go and we don't encounter it. It's no institution, it's no system, it's no structure in place. It's no culture experience that we can have where it doesn't show up. So there's a lot of work to be done there. And yes, there is education that needs to be had, but we don't use that as just a way to deflect responsibility for bad behavior, and that was what was going on in that place. And I'm really interested in figuring out some ways that we can move together in addressing it so that this doesn't happen like this anymore. If it happens all the time, but it's high time that it's addressed systemically.
Yeah. Well, for now, I think we need to have consequences.
We do need consequences.
Sorry, Representative Arora, I'm not sorry, but you need to have some consequences. You cannot continue to behave in such a manner. So until you can be educated, you need to have some consequences. And that's the bottom line. I don't care where you sit. I don't care if you sit in Greenwich or if you sit in Hartford. You are, if your behavior is deplorable, you get consequences. And your consequences need to be that you're no longer a part of the committee. And that's what the Republican Party needs to tell him. And whoever put those racist comments up on their page, they need to have some consequences for them as well. That's it. That's what we watched all day today on CNN, trying to bring consequences for actions. We need the same thing here in Connecticut.
I find it. First off, Representative Porter, thank you. You are a champion, right? And in many ways, we rock with you. All right, Representative Hughes. We got history.
We've been down a long time.
And so, and of course, Rhonda and CJ, we family. So it's Sean, I'm sorry, I don't know you real well. We getting to know you. We'll come back to you.
Eventually.
You own this thing right here, so you all right? Let me say, I think a couple of things. Of course, ditto to what everybody has said. In addition to that, for me, what I find ironic is that the conversation was about the Crowns Act to actually put some law, right, around bad behavior in a sense to frame it in a legal consequence, so that the injustices that occur around hair. The metaphor of that in reaches very broadly. So I find it ironic that we were there. The conversation was about the law around the Crowns Bill, and what people feel about that. And we had to deal with what I and as others of you have named as the aftermath or the continuation of what I call the hillbilly horde that occurred down in DC.
Right.
All right. And that the state Republican Party has a remnant of that hillbilly horde mentality that's here, that it feels empowered now to speak and to act in such belligerent ways. The process of bill making ought to be a conversation, ought to be conversations, deliberation, discussions, and even argument about the merit of the particular issue. But ought to do it in a way that is respectful, all right, that is in a spirit of collegiality at least, all right, in the halls of power, in the people's house. And the fact that the people at the people's hearing couldn't talk without the legislator running his mouth, extending the time, doubling the time, I find abhorrent. And if for no other reason, there ought to be, with responsibility, I believe, comes accountability. All right. I don't mean to preach, but I am a preacher. All right. So if we're talking about responsibility, right, as a state lawmaker, there ought to be a way to that you as lawmakers hold each other accountable. And we are in full lockstep with those who are already crying, and we decry this kind of behavior. And let's be clear, some of your other friends who have spoken out of turn, I'm remembering one of our sisters got spoken to disrespectfully, and dude had to suffer some consequence. I'm going to tell you, we down with calling you on this bad behavior.
Yes, and see, that's what I'm saying. See, I'm done with trying to educate and teach and try to convince. You need consequences. If you're in any type of leadership, you are not allowed to say those things. Connecticut Republicans, y'all need to get yourselves together. If you continue to post racist, denigrating comments about legislators, black and brown, we will call for consequences, and we will not stop until we get them. And that means people need to be stripped of committee assignments, or they need to resign and step down entirely from the seat. I know there's some black and brown folks in Greenwich, okay, in the 151st district. All right, I know there have to be. So you cannot behave in this manner, Representative Arora. You cannot. I'm sorry, CJ. I see you. Go ahead. I'm just really.
Oh, no, I'm just going to say.
Right.
No, I understand. I'm just going to say that the bill, sorry, not the bill, the petition language is we are asking for his resignation. We want him to be removed from all committee assignments. We do not feel comfortable with him representing us or being a representative of the immigrant community. We're asking for a public apology. We're also asking for the public to be invited back to testify again in a safe environment. And we are also asking for security for Representative Porter, because we feel confident that this is not a situation that should be ignored. It should not be ignored. These people are dangerous. And those things that are being said on his page, this is how it starts. I mean, this is what, what's her name? Marjorie Taylor Greene did. And we see how that turned out. So
That's right.
It always starts with a couple words and it elevates. And I really hope that people sign this petition, folks. Please sign and share it. We have to be actively involved here. If we don't stand up now, this is just one session that got, recognized for this behavior. We still have a lot more to go. And if it's happening here, they're not going to stop, because obviously he has support. And it's quite convenient that he lives in the section of Connecticut that's quite wealthy and could afford the people relief. So there's a lot of layers to this thing. And I really hope that we don't just say, hey, that's wrong, and walk away. We need to get up and we need to stand up. We cannot allow these oppressors to sleep. We cannot allow them to rest. We cannot make them think that we're not here. We have to pull up on them and let them know enough is enough. Enough is enough. As many know, just recently, a Yale student was killed. I'm very sorry that happened. But I'm angry that the Black and brown people were immediately made to feel guilty by it. And come to find out, he was killed by someone of his own race. And we don't see any apology, but what we do see somehow out of White Jesus' back pocket, the chief of police, New Haven chief of police, and the mayor of New Haven have found the resources, time, and money to, investigate and do all that they can do to make sure that this murder is solved. Well, who hears our cries? I'll tell you who hears our cries and who wipes our tears. Rep.Porter and Gary Winfield. I speak to who I know. I could pick up the phone and I could call them. She herself, she knows a situation I had to deal with last year, very similar to this. This bullying is nothing new, and we need to understand it for what it is and call it all the way out. We can't do it anymore, you know. And the fact that he started the day with insulting the Crown Act, he set the tone. He was on Facebook saying that he's going to go in and he's going to make sure he disrupts everything. We can't let this go. I'm not letting it go.
And the
And
thing
I
about
say we
that
should
too,
not.
CJ, is that, you know, when you look at the act, the legislation that we're passing, it is an act creating a respectful and open world for
Exactly.
natural hair.
Exactly.
Creating a respectful and open world. And I'll take it one step further. Creating a respectful and open world for Black and brown people, for our hair, for our culture, for our language,
humanity,
for our religions, for our everything.
Right.
We need to be
right.
able to show up authentically ourselves without being made to feel less than, compromised, endangered. We need, and this public hearing is supposed to be a safe and liberating space for the public. So we got, like you said, a lot of issues going on here. And I think that everything happens for a reason. And I believe that we're all being tested and we're going to find out who's true. Because you can't be sticking your little Black Lives Matter flag in your front yard and don't come out and support us on issues like this. Because that's
right.
what I call being a hypocrite. So if you're going to be with us and you're going to be for us, it has to be 100%. Not when it's convenient, not when the cameras are rolling, not when the reporter has a mic in your face, but when ain't nobody watching, right? When it's just you and me, what's happening?
Well, what we're also witnessing is what happens to Black and brown leadership and political positions of authority.
That's right.
It's attenuation, constantly undermining Black leadership. You know, it's a continuation, and then you wonder why you can't find Black and brown folks to run for office.
That's right. That's right.
They see this and they're like, I don't want any parts of it.
Well, they're not
You
even
know,
getting
because
paid for that, Rhonda.
and then you
Look
do
at
all
the
that for
starting pay.
$28,000 a year.
Come on.
And they know we can't afford to do it for $28,000 a year because we work in 2 and 3 jobs just to make ends meet. But thank God, because I am able, and I'm able because of my village. I'm able to do this work because of my village, because I don't see how people work 2 jobs doing this job. And to be honest with you, you can't fully impact or affect what it is you need to, because you have to work another job.
That's
Right.
right.
So I count it all joy. I count it a tremendous blessing to be able to center myself in this work for this season. And it is a sacrifice, but let me tell you something. It is a sacrifice that I would make over and over again, because
We know.
it's a humbling experience. And to be able to do for people with the authority and the power that I have, that I couldn't do for people when I was just advocating, I know it ain't nobody but God.
Right.
I know it ain't nobody but Him.
And this is why you have to be,
Well,
you have
Robyn,
to
may I
have the
just add this
installation
to what you
of,
just said?
okay.
I just want to add this real quick. Sorry, Rhonda. For anyone who ever thought, because you smile, see, people get caught in the smile. They don't know the knees on your neck. They don't know that the Republicans come at you left, right, center, up, down, sideways, and have been competition for a long time. And he just proved that. He came with that intent to show his cards and play his game. And he did it purposely, and he did it with intent. And Connecticut needs to understand that, because Connecticut looks blue on the outside. Enough is enough. Just because she smiles and just because she doesn't talk about it on Facebook does not mean it doesn't happen. It doesn't mean that. So we need to stop that.
And it wasn't just
Gary
intentional, CJ. It was malicious intent.
That's
really
right.
It was malicious intent, you know, and I think that's the thing that really makes it deplorable and despicable. And you're right. There has to be consequences. You don't get rewarded for bad behavior.
Exactly.
You don't. I wasn't raised that way. I didn't raise my kids that way.
This is basic as home training, you know.
Yes.
A child, you do something, you know, you shouldn't do, you have a punishment, a consequence. And I think, Ann, you're right, that you get these, white men or white, a person, a white agenda, with the white agenda, because plenty of people who are not white have the white agenda, and they have this place, we call it privilege, entitlement. That's what it is.
Yep.
It's entitlement, and they're used to having that entitlement. And how dare you touch my entitlement? And it's just childish. It just is childish. That says it's all about me and nobody else. This is something that I didn't learn growing up. I didn't learn this growing up. So now you're in public positions and offices, acting like you're 5. And I don't know. I think that's shameful.
Lady Selders, you hit it on the head when you talk about the energy of backlash to the audacity of Chairwoman Porter doing her job. The audacity invites this backlash, because we cannot have that, because that is somehow diminishing, my position of power. And we say that's right.
It's just, I just think that childish behavior needs to be pointed out and talked about and wrote about. And there are consequences for when you act like a child.
But there's also a whole bunch of system behind that. There's a whole bunch of supporters of system, and normalizing behind that from a baked-in system that says, "Oh, never mind that, Robyn. Just ignore or dismiss or give him what he wants or whatever." That's baked in, and that again creates a norm of privileging white supremacy.
Right, and there has to be resistance, interruption. And I think that this, Robyn, unfortunately, no, I'm not going to say unfortunately. I'm going to say,
I was built for this, lady. First lady, I was built for it.
Absolutely, that you were ordained and called to be in a position.
Amen. Consecrated for this purpose,
so that we can see behind the curtain a little bit more than we were before, and that we are in a position that we are paying closer attention to what happens, so that now we can step up and address it in a way that we weren't prepared to address it before. Like I said, the biggest, we got, I'm going to say it may have been just a preview, what happened in January. It was a preview to what every state may be trying to pull off, and if that is the case, we really do need to recognize that, and we do need to strategize on how we move forward on this situation. And I'm thankful that you were in that position, although I am still sorry, because no Black woman who has done as much as you have done, and that you do deserve to be treated with such disrespect and a lack of humanity. And so, my heart is with you for that. As a mom, I wanted to go snap some people, because it's not right. So I'm
ready to burn tires, Pam. Let's go. Let's go.
I thank you. I thank all of you. I really do. I really do. I love you guys so much.
We love you too.
We love you.
Absolutely. We're not going to continue.
It also has something to do, and I hear you, Representative Porter, that you were built for it, but as a person of faith, you also have to say yes to it.
That's right.
You can be ordained. They can come and lay hands on you and speak, and and do all they do, all we do, But then you have to say yes, Lord.
Right.
You have to.
I surrender. I surrendered a long time ago.
That's exactly right. That a call was made, and then the prophet told. He said, "Next time you hear that call, say, 'Here am I.'"
Here I am, Lord.
That's right. Say yes to that thing. Right. And what you did is say yes to it, and then you exposed it.
Yes.
We need far more people to say yes and then expose it. All right. So I hear you. I don't know. I think it was CJ that spoke to white people who sit, by and complicitous and complicit with what they know is wrongdoing. And we need y'all to say something too, because this is not normal. That in the houses and the halls of power and lawmaking, this kind of nastiness, there's a nastiness that just should not be. And we got to call it out, name it, bring it front and center, because here's the thing, they get embarrassed by it. They're not doing it in the dark.
Right.
They're embarrassed about it coming front and center and being put in the light.
Yeah.
The power of the public. The power of the public.
I just want to throw something in there. I just want to challenge all the white allies who have used Robyn over the years. I'm going to say use until you prove me otherwise. Every time you call her to show up at your event, whether it be a nonprofit or otherwise, you need to sign this petition too. You need to pick up the phone, call your legislator, call the governor, call somebody, but call on some change and meet it. And for anybody who had anything nasty, even one word to say about the police accountability bill, especially those who had nothing to do with it. This is what legislation looks like for Black and brown legislators. Shut your mouth. We fought for that. She fought for that. She stood on that floor. I can't remember how long. Tuesday night, I had a text Robyn and say, I'm sorry, I can't. My eyes can't stay open. I'm sorry, But if that's how I felt, Robyn, I can't imagine how you feel. I just can't. But we need all of y'all who claim, when you use her, when she shows up and you benefit from her presence, we need you to show up and demand justice now, not just for her, but for all the Black and brown people. And even for Senator Kushner, who was also disrespected.
Yes, she
Oh my God.
Yeah,
we need it.
All of the women.
Let me tell you, she held her own, and I am so appreciative of having her as my co-chair. She brought it, and she didn't back down. And it is an issue of women being in power, but you add to that, the Black layer, and you take it to a whole nother level. So there's resentment for the fact that we're women first and foremost. And then for me, I got that extra skin layer, that melanin that just makes people mad for no good reason, good reason. And I'm a team player, I get teased in that building all the time about, oh, you want to hug everybody, you love everybody. And I'm like, and just imagine if we all could be like that, what a better place, what a more wonderful world we would live in. And loving people don't necessarily mean you like them. Let's be honest. But what it means is when you love them, it's unconditional. It is not predicated on what they say, how they make you feel, how they treat you. You love them because you know what God loved you through. Okay? Right. That's what you do. And you love the ones that would despitefully use you, because that's real love. It's easy to love the people that love you back. But I gotta love Rep. Aurora, and I gotta love Representative Retigliano and all of the rest of them jokers that treat me like crap. You know why? Because I benefit from that. And maybe somewhere down the line, it's gonna rub off, Yes. But I'm not waiting for that to happen. I'm just gonna operate and move in love because that's all I know. But don't take me for no pushover, because meekness is not weakness. It is actually strength under power, strength under control. And this is what they don't understand. I can be nice. I can play nice. We can do all the things we need to do, but only if the respect is reciprocated. Absolutely. It goes both ways, and you're not gonna get what you want acting like this. My grandmother used to always say, you get more with honey than you do vinegar. Somebody need to take him a big jug of honey.
But that's what love looks like.
And on that note, I gotta go because I am running so late right now. You guys suck me in, Rhonda. You get me every time.
I'm sorry.
I just want to close out the way I started, with just really giving you guys my heartfelt gratitude The love is just immense. And you guys are so deeply appreciated. You have no idea how I draw on your strength. So just keep praying for me, praying for all of us. All of us. And when I say all of us, I mean all of us. Pray for us all, because we all need prayer. We all need love. We all going through something. We are all suffering to some degree. And you know, of course, Black and brown folks are suffering the most. But I'm not going to negate the fact that we all are going through something. And I just want us to, you know, really operate in a spirit of teamwork makes the dream work. We can do this together. Together, we win.
Yes.
So I want to keep it positive. I don't want to get caught in this moment, but I do believe that this moment needs to be exposed and needs to be dealt with. And we need to set standards and consequences for misbehaving, because to whom much is given, much is required.
Yes.
And if it's required of me, it needs to be required of everyone, because it would have never been acceptable for me to act in that manner. So it shouldn't be acceptable for no one to act in that manner. And on that note, I really got to go. I love you guys. Thank you so
everybody.
Much. Y'all have a blessed weekend.
Night.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Yes.
All right.
Have a good one. Take care.
Bye.